Okay, so in dealing with students, teachers, and administrators, of course, working to what answering the question, what's best for students. Our plan and strategies have included the teachers, the students, teachers, and the administrator. And so next we got to decide, well, why are these an issue, and what's our resolve going to help. So as far as students go, we know that they're stressed, so we need to reduce their competitiveness in their grades. That will certainly reduce some of their anxiety and performance stress. And we know that we still need to maintain a high level of expectation. We don't want to downgrade anything that the school is doing now. Even Mrs. Walker, she just needs to learn how to better do her lesson plans and present information so that students actually get what she is teaching. And so students, these are some of the things that we need to do to help our students. In helping our teacher with our resolve, our plan and strategies, that's going to make her a more effective teacher in the classroom. Hopefully, her job satisfaction is going to increase, and she's going to enjoy her job. And then also, she's going to end up with a better rapport with the students and potentially the other faculty. I'm not sure. Didn't say anything about what the other faculty thought of her, but certainly with students, she needs to build that rapport and do better there. The principal, we need to address his decision making because he has put his personal growth and his reputation over those of Mrs. Walker, and I think that needs to be addressed. And so, in dealing with him, to be a better administrator, because he's lost some of his credibility, I believe, especially with Mrs. Walker. He needs to then some of the facts here is that he needs to readdress the school laws and guidelines. I mean, that's going to be a benefit for everybody involved. And then, of course, build the rapport with students and faculty, especially with Mrs. Walker, like I said before. These are things that we know need to happen. Quick little debrief as after we've discussed our strategies and plan of action for students, teachers, and Mr. Walker, and as far as the web page deal goes with getting Mrs. Walker satisfied there and finding out who did the web page, who did the slanderous things. At first, I was thinking that Mr. Forbes was correct in his methods, calming down Mrs. Walker, assured her that it was going to get taken care of, put her mind at ease that he figured it was just a prank. He made copies of the web page and the email, which was a good decision on his part. So at first I thought, well, he's doing everything right, and that's a good thing. But then I felt, well, this guy's an idiot. Okay, we start having comments that are any way, shape, or form start, putting somebody's life in danger. You want to see, does anybody want to see Mrs. Walker disappear? That's pretty serious accusation. In today's day and age, you just don't take those things lightly, and every situation is should be considered a reasonable threat. And so, yeah, I felt he was just he did not value her feelings or her right to work in the building and know that he had her back, and he did not. And so those are kind of my feelings throughout this thing. And so I certainly think that this was a leadership issue, that if he would have just handled the situation, made her a better teacher to begin with, spent more time, addressed the things there with the students, acting up in her class, I think that would have certainly made this a better situation for all involved. Unresolved issues, of course, we still don't know who created the email and the web page. Nothing in our reading shows us that, so there's more investigation is required. Did Principal Forbes get to keep his job after the school board found out that he did not involve the police immediately? They have a reputation to uphold as well. I mean, they've got stakeholders. They're big stakeholders in this as well, and so they, they can't just have a principal having stuff like this and sweeping it under the rug so that nobody knows. And then, and third thing to think of is this: is Miss Walker going to stay employed at Roosevelt High School? Because after an incident like that, maybe she doesn't even want to stay. She may not even care any longer. She may resign and go someplace else and give it another try. She may be too much stress for her. Um, so, component one, we're talking about these are our standards for administrators. Did Mr. Forbes demonstrate a sense of integrity and ethical behavior according to standard 5, where he protects the rights and the confidentiality of students and staff? I believe no, he did not. His plan was to involve the district technologist in finding out who initiated the email or the web page, which I think is probably a smart thing to do. But as soon as you start telling other people, no telling what that guy was going to say, and then that all of a sudden gets all over the place, and then maybe Mrs. Walters didn't want that to be known out in everybody. Maybe she was okay calling the police and let that be a confidential thing. Concerning being opposed to and open to school public scrutiny, no, I think he was trying to hide the fact that this was going on in his school, and he was embarrassed by it and wanted to save his reputation, the reputation of the school, and so that's why he did not call the police. And so I think that was a mistake. So no, that was not very ethical on his part. And did he fulfill legal and contractual obligations according to Standard 5? No, he had a right. He had an obligation to Mrs. Walters, one of his staff members, to protect her rights and to make sure that this was not going to be a thing that wasn't going to go unpunished or unaddressed. And so, no, I don't believe he fulfilled his obligations as an effective administrator in those sense, according to Standard 5. According to some other standards in there, did Mr. Forbes treat people fairly, equitable, and with dignity and respect? Well, yes and no. One, we've already talked about Mrs. Walker didn't treat her fairly, no. But he did, however, give Randy Franks the benefit of the doubt, and he wasn't just going to call Randy up in the office and say, why did you do this? And so he was certainly going to methodically figure out and question and try to get to the bottom of it. But as far as dignity and respect, I don't believe he showed those qualities, just because I think he kind of dropped the ball on this one. And then component 3, did Mr. Forbes demonstrate a personal professional code of ethics, as evidenced by his willingness to discuss reduce the amount of stress he was putting on the students? Well, yes. Because he certainly was trying to make efforts with Mrs. Walker to make her a better teacher. He had already had discussions with her, and I believe that's probably where the problem was, because he had already was kind of disappointed in the fact that she hadn't implemented the strategies that he gave her and was unsuccessful in doing that. And so he probably was already thinking, this teacher isn't worth all of the hassle. She probably brought it on herself, which was his thoughts to begin with. He did, however, demonstrate a certain amount of code and ethics, as evidenced by the fact that he received the state award for having one of the most prestigious schools in the state. You don't do that by accident. So he must have been doing some things right. He must have been conducting himself in the school in a manner that is worthy of an award of that nature. And so he did some things right. He did some things wrong. But all in all, he didn't have Mrs. Forbes or Mrs. Walker's back. Now, this is just a picture of Roosevelt High School. It's in Gary, Indiana. This is not the one in question. This is just kind of a picture that I put on there. But in conclusion, I think this is an administrative issue. It's a leadership flaw. The whole case of the web page threatening one of his staff members is certainly the civil case at hand, I think, here, and something needs to be done about that. But I think as far as this case study goes, I think the problem is an administration one. If Mr. Forbes would have dealt with Mrs. Walker early on, got her in a better teaching situation, put a mentor teacher with her right away, been meeting with her more regularly, had a conversation with students. If he would have addressed the student body and said, this is not acceptable use. It's not acceptable. I mean, for treating teachers that way, not acceptable behavior. We're better than that. I mean, if there are things that, as administration, he could have done to prevent this incident altogether, I believe. And so, I've addressed student needs, teacher needs, administration needs, several facts that support the strategies involved with each of those plans to increase student achievement. The teacher increase student achievement by addressing the teacher's needs, and increasing student achievement by helping out the administration. So that concludes my my case study on for video blog number 6. Thank you for watching. Sorry it's been so long, but thank you for watching.